Hello and welcome to the Screen Chronicles. I'm Colby, and with me as always is Steve, and we are joined by a very special guest. If you're listening to us, you must know her as the Lady Ælswith from The Last Kingdom. Eliza Butterworth, welcome to the Screen Chronicles.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you for being on today. How are you doing?
Super good. Super good. Yeah, so excited to talk to you guys and just like, thank you for being such big fans. As I said earlier, I think you know more than I do about this show.
No.
So this is going to be really interesting.
Well, we're excited to learn from you and
Yes.
just have a great talk. So obviously right now it's a pretty crazy time. What's life been like for you lately?
Kind of, yeah, bizarre. I'm such a people person, always around my friends. So it's just been constant Zoom calls. You know, now I'm like the pro at this stuff. Drinking lots of coffee, making cakes, and yeah, just getting out and about a little bit, like walking and cycling. But yeah, I'm just always chatting to my friends, which is really nice. And of course, watching The Last Kingdom.
Yes.
By my time. The Last Kingdom and The Last Dance. Have you guys been watching that on Netflix?
We just talked to Bjorn Bengtsson, and he told us to watch that.
Ooh, it is so good. The Michael Jordan docuseries. Brilliant. Like, I've always been a fan of NBA basketball, but this is just incredible. The detail in it about all the different players and such an amazing era of sport. Back in the kind of, the 90s, just wow. It's awesome. Check it out.
Okay.
Who's your team?
Forget The Last Kingdom. It's all about The Last Dance. Okay. I'm here to promote an entirely different show.
Who's your team? Who's your NBA team?
Well, after watching this, I'm like, the Bulls are just unbelievable, the Chicago Bulls. But when I was younger, I used to like the Knicks, the New York Knicks. And yeah, just such an amazing sport. So fantastic. And all the players are so quirky. Like, you know, in the docuseries, they go into life about Dennis Rodman, and like, he's just another level. Like, yeah, literally, like, wow, what a character. But yeah, probably the Knicks and now the Bulls. Now I'm obsessed.
Okay.
Let's wage it
How
over.
about you guys? Who do you support?
I was always with the Heat growing up. I've kind of lost. I haven't been following the NBA as much. I'm still with the Steelers though, as far as football teams
Nice.
go. More of a hockey guy myself. Don't watch too much basketball. Is that what the shirts
are behind you, Colby? Are they both hockey shirts?
This is baseball. It's a Yankee jersey,
baseball.
And then this is USA 1980 Miracles game from the Olympics.
Cool.
USA jersey.
And also, what states do you guys live in America?
I'm in New York.
New York. Mm-hmm. Okay, get your coffee and your bagels and your talk. Okay.
Hot dog in the water. Hot dog in the water.
So I'm walking over here. Okay.
That's right.
I'm in PA, Pennsylvania. So.
Cool. And that's amazing. I've been to New York loads of times. I've never been to Pennsylvania. But my mother is from Fort Dodge, Iowa. If you guys have ever been to Iowa.
I have not, actually.
Okay.
No, great place. There's maybe not so much culture, but there's a lot of agriculture.
Okay,
That's what my mother would say.
Did you grow up in England then?
I did. I grew up in England, but I spent most of my summers in the States. So half my family are all in America. I've got family in Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Arizona, Chicago. So yeah, so kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
hey, Omaha's a good baseball town.
Yeah, Omaha's amazing. yeah, the baseball there is epic, gorgeous. Yeah, I love Omaha. And they've got really good theater scene. They have an amazing, I think it's like the Henry Ford Playhouse or something. And they just have phenomenal plays. So I always like to go there and watch all the theatrics.
Totally.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, how did you get into acting?
So both my parents are not actors. I don't have anyone in the family who is part of this industry or this world, really. My dad was a pilot and my mother was a nurse. And then I just kind of did like little acting classes growing up, like went into the drama club at school, and we just did a few plays, and I didn't think too much of it. And then one day, one of my head teachers said, you should really apply to drama school. And I thought, well, what? No way. I wanted to be a dentist, you guys. I was so ready, checking people's teeth. And yeah. That was going to be my career path, dentistry.
Can I just say that I look at dentists a lot of the way that people look at Ellsworth in The Last Kingdom. Very scared of them.
and complete utter disdain. Yeah, exactly. So either way, I would have been, kind of hated by my audience, I guess. No. But yeah, I was going to be a dentist, and I studied like sciences for my sort of A-levels that we call them in England, to get you into university. And then I thought maybe I would study English. So I had a couple of options, but it certainly wasn't acting. And then I just tried out for this drama school in London and got in when I was 17. And because it's such a, fantastic, renowned drama school, I thought, well, I've got to take this opportunity and go with this. So bye dentistry, bye. So literally became a completely different person. And went to that drama school for 3 years, got a bachelor's degree in acting. And from there, you get an agent and casting directors watch your work. And then that was kind of it. That's how it all began.
That's awesome. Just curious, what kind of sciences were you interested in? Steve and I are science guys, so just curious.
Oh my goodness. Biology and chemistry were the ones that I needed to get into dental school, but I honestly wasn't. It wasn't my natural, know.
Chemistry is a big no-no for me.
Oh my gosh, chemistry's so hard. I did like biology, actually. I really enjoyed it, whereas chemistry felt like more of like, oh God, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. But luckily now, none of that has to apply. So thank goodness.
Yes.
But I still think I probably would have been a very theatrical dentist. We're like, open wide. Just like really crazy. Say, oh. Yeah, it has certainly been an entertaining show coming to my dental practice, no doubt.
That would have been,
been more
interesting. Might have made me like going to the dentist, actually. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, it'd be a good thing, encouraging people to like the dentist.
Totally. So from acting, become an actor, how did you get involved with The Last Kingdom?
So The Last Kingdom, I graduated from RADA, which is the drama school I went to in 2014 in the summertime. And then I got like an acting job in like a BBC filming thing. And then during the time there, I got put up for an audition for The Last Kingdom. I think this was like late September or something. Anyway, I was like back and forth through the filming and doing the auditions for The Last Kingdom. I think I did 2 in the end. And then I got called to say, yeah, we want you in the role. And I started filming then that November, I think, November 2014. So then a couple of months later, my life just totally changed, which was awesome. And I was 21 when I first got The Last Kingdom. And I think Ælswith, this is what's been really funny about like Ælswith's like age, because I just turned 21, then I got the role. And I think she would have probably been about nearly 30 or something at that time. And obviously with each year that goes by, I only get 1 year older, but the story gets 5 years older or like 10 years older. So now I'm a friggin' grandmother. And it's just so funny because I'm 26, and obviously I've been doing this since I was 21, which has been awesome, but like the character's been growing and growing in age, which I really enjoyed. I honestly love the transformative nature of that character, having to play something that's so different to me, not only in disposition and character, but in age as well. So it's been a real challenge, but super fun. Awesome.
And I think you're the same age as Millie. Is that right?
And Tim. So both my kids are my age. Which is so funny. I remember first meeting, so obviously Millie came into the show in season 2. And I remember like seeing her in the reading room that we had when we were reading all the initial season 2 scripts. And I was looking at her, I was like, no way, is that my daughter? No way. And I went up to her and I was like, hi, you're playing Ethelfled, my daughter. And I was like, how old are you? And she was like, she'd have been 22 or 23. And I was like, I'm 23, what? So, but I actually think it really, really works because of how close we are. We obviously have more of a sisterly bond in real life, but because we are so close, that I do have like a natural maternal thing over her and him. So I think, it reads really well. And obviously we've got amazing makeup artists and the costumes help, and, just to really, really separate our ages. So it's really funny when people will find my Instagram or something and be like, whoa, I thought you were like 52. And like, that's kind of a compliment, but also really bad because obviously I just do look that old. No. In some ways.
Harry was telling us though, especially the first season, they were really trying to go out and make everyone look harsh, real reality. He was telling us like they gave him warts all over his face.
Oh yeah. Exactly. They really went to town. I think also we wanted to not look like Game of Thrones, in the sense that Game of Thrones was very beautiful and very polished and very like refined looking, and especially the women just looked like goddesses. And we sort of thought, well, really back in 879 AD, people probably only had a bath once every 6 months. So we're not going to go down that route of looking glamorous, because that's just not realistic. And obviously Game of Thrones is stunning and like cinematically unbelievable. The actors are phenomenal, and like it works for their aesthetic of the show, the glamour that goes with it. But for us, we just wanted that gritty, edgy, raw kind of look, and therefore they just went to town with us. And that's where my iconic beard moment began. Oh my goodness, this hairstyle, the amount of like banter I've gotten off of that hairstyle is insane. But it works because, you know, I think they looked at me and thought, okay, you're really young, you can play this character, but how do we, I don't know, make you just look more of that era? And, you know, the women wouldn't have, you know, we didn't have curling irons and makeup and, you know, whatever. So I think they just thought, what can we do? What's the worst thing we can do to her? Oh, let's tie her hair under her chin. And it worked.
It totally works.
Yeah.
I mean, the show does such a good job. I feel like if I had a time machine and went back in time, that's how I picture it in my head, even before watching the show.
Exactly, Colby.
Totally.
I think that's what they were trying to get after, in that sense of like, we're not trying to be something else. We're not trying to make it glamorous. We want it to look as realistic as possible. And I think they absolutely did that. And yeah, and actually, I think it only helps us as actors play the role, because if I look at myself and I know I don't look like the normal me, I can play my role better. I think it just like helps you step into the shoes of the character. So we really enjoy that.
Yeah. So talking about your look, a couple of the other actors we talked to said they had personal input into the look. Did you put anything yourself into it?
I think initially in season 1, because, you know, the show was just a brand new thing. I just sort of went with whatever the flow was. I was just so happy and honored to be involved in any way. So they were like, we want to give you a beard. I was like, yep, give me the beard. You know, do whatever you want. Like, this is just so much fun. But I think as obviously it's evolved and we've gotten to know our characters better, we definitely have a bit more of an input as to what we think our character might wear, or, you know, how they should look. And that's really nice, because it then becomes a collaborative experience with you and then the makeup team and the costume team, who totally trust us as much as we trust them to kind of, you know, bring that person to life and portray them as best as possible. So it's a really good teamwork thing. But yeah, I think as Ælswith's gotten older, we've tried to make her look a little bit like even more refined, I suppose, especially with the loss of Alfred in season 4. She's actually a little bit more put together, as though she has to try harder, you know, in every way to hold on to what her kingdom used to be. And that's in terms of her looks, and because everyone said, oh, you look a bit more polished or whatever. And I think it's just a sense of, you know, becoming wiser and more stoic, and also, yeah, just trying to keep everything together, really.
That's a nice little detail. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what else did you do when you first got the role of Ælswith to get ready for the role?
I think, well, initially the role within this television script wasn't very big, so I didn't have a lot to go off of, and her presence within Bernard Cornwell's novels isn't that, you know, massive either, which is absolutely fine. So in a way, it gave me a lot of liberty to create whatever I wanted. It gave me a lot of scope and range. I didn't have to fit a certain mold. So in a sense, I sort of just went with it. And I obviously, the initial sort of, I guess, depiction of her is her malice and her, you know, kind of cunning, dark, villainous ways. So I obviously went down that route mega. And I thought, yeah, it's cool to have, you know, the wife of such a revered man be actually very callous and calculating in her own way. But at the same time, I think I always tried to justify her actions. So it was nice that, you know, in the Marsha scene in, I think it's 7 in season 1, her son Edward is obviously in danger and is extremely ill. And it's like the first time you see her be a human being. You see her break down and her sensitive sides. And then you think, well, hopefully I was trying to portray the fact that, like, okay, even though she can be really severe, it's actually all from a sense of trying to protect her kingdom and her husband and her family.
Her family, totally.
Yeah. So that was always cool to play with. But for sure, just being evil is very fun for me. I love it.
How from a production standpoint has it changed from season 1 then to season 4?
Absolutely, humongously. I mean, with season 1, we were a BBC production at that time, which was awesome. Like, BBC productions are fantastic, and but I feel like we were more of an underground, sort of underrated show, which actually I think has worked in our favor in a sense throughout the years, because there's something nice about people stumbling upon us and going, oh wow, like being pleasantly surprised by how it all is. But as the years have gone on and we've gotten a Netflix on our side and everything like that, and we've just got such a fantastic cast, I think the whole show has just blossomed, and it's just become even more exciting to watch, like cinematically, acting wise. The scripts are incredible, but I think we began in such a cool place. It was very raw. It felt very, I don't know, there's something very modest about the beginnings of this show, which I think you can tell that the audience really, really loves. And I think that's why we've got such an awesome fan base, because they've been watching us from a place where we maybe weren't the most glitzy show ever, but actually it's such a character-driven, story-led piece that you just fall in love with these characters and you want to stick with them. And now we've got the same, I think that we've kept the same raw essence, even in season 4, all about the characters and the emotion. And, obviously there's gripping action and gripping battles, but actually you're there for the sort of one-on-one characters as well. And I feel like we've kept that through even in season 4, which is really cool.
I totally agree. I mean, the cast is amazing. Every character steps up. And honestly, congrats on season 4. You guys killed it in season 4. And you, in particular, kind of steal the show sometimes, we thought.
Get out of here.
No,
wow. Thank you, guys.
Watching it, we're like, obviously you're not supposed to like Ælswith in, seasons 1 through 3,
Yeah.
And we find ourselves in season 4 going, Ælswith, go! Like when she's talking to Ælswith, or when she's talking to Edward, or there's so many moments.
Edward back up,
Exactly.
Totally. And I totally agree. I want people to think about this now, because if Ælswith wasn't in season 4, England, Wessex, Mercia would have been screwed.
Yeah,
and I have a
totally.
few reasons.
I mean, in our story, for sure, she's doing all the meddling, all the like crazy behind the scenes negotiations. You're right.
I mean, you tell about Tetton Hall, about that, which
I think Welsh involved. Yeah,
I thought that was cool because it kind of shows I assume your past like Mercian knowledge from growing up there, and probably your parents had taught you some things about that. That was kind of cool to apply.
Yeah.
And then just the whole stuff with Ethelstan, and then getting the Welsh, or just a few points where you played big roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Colby. That was really fun for me to play, because I suppose, when Alfred was around, she was certainly, his right-hand man, and his Lady Macbeth, if you like, but she didn't always necessarily take direct action with the stuff that she did. She was more like, helping him along. So it's not nice, but without the presence of Alfred, it's cool to see how she's just trying to cope now, and it's a big struggle, and Edward doesn't always see eye to eye with her, and she's trying to control him whilst trying to keep the kingdom together. And now she's got Ethelhelm getting involved and trying to steal the crown, and getting poisoning Edward's ear, and then she's got Ethelflaed, who's in her own right becoming an independent ruler, and how do we manage that? How is she going to be the best she can be? And it just feels like there's so much collapsing in on her that she's trying to just be responsible for, and just cope with. So it's been really, really fun to play with that. And at the same time, knowing that there's such a presence of Alfred throughout the show, that's something that I heard Alexander Draymond saying in an interview, that although we don't have David Dawson anymore, which is just like the most devastating thing, we talk about him all the time, and his vision totally drives all my actions. Everything that I do is for the dream and the legacy that Alfred had, and the vision of creating this united, England. So that's why it's cool to see her getting involved in the warrior side, the scheming about, where you should go for a battle, or this is the valley that you need to go to. Like that's cool, because it shows that all of Alfred's knowledge about that is actually falling to her now, and it's her responsibility to make sure her children know how to become the best rulers that they can be. So it's cool. It's
cool.
And she certainly had some redemption in the eyes of the audience, for sure.
Yeah,
which is really, really cool for a character to go from that 360 slightly villainous to like, someone we feel empathetic towards. Mm-hmm.
Did you know when you came into the show that they turned that way at all? No?
Never, Steve. No, I didn't think so. I mean, I always tried to, as I say, play, I guess, you know, her more vulnerable sides in any which way I could, even because I think the scripts are so clever. Although she's very cunning, they still allow for that human vulnerable side to seep through. I mean, not a lot, not as much as this season, but even in the past there were twinges of it, but I thought it would carry on more in that way. But it's really, really cool that they've allowed this character to really blossom, and also just to redeem herself and to apologize, because it feels like somebody who's as stubborn as an ox like that would never ever consider almost bowing down to Uhtred, the person that she, you know, was most against all the time. And I always say that people are like, why does that character hate him? And I think from my perspective, it's that she is so devout to her God. She's so pious and so, you know, devout to her kingdom and Alfred, that she sees Uhtred's pagan ways as an insult. And the fact that he won't turn to Christianity makes her just think, well, I can't have you in my, you know, in my group. You know, you're not going about it the same way that we are, and I don't trust you. If you don't turn to God, then how can I know that you're on our side? So that was always her sort of motivation, I guess.
Yeah. One scene in season 4 that really hit me as far as showing your regret and making us feel empathetic was you just went and met Ethelstan, which that scene was awesome, by the way, where you're talking to the boy. But shortly after that, when you're talking to Ælswith,
yes,
and she doesn't know who you are. That's obvious. But that scene we were like, whoa.
Yeah, that just switched, didn't it? I remember reading that and being like, oh gosh, she's being so kind to reunite this mother that she'd banished because she thought that, you know, Edward and Edwin, you know, married out of the eyes of God. So she banished them. And now she's, you know, reuniting them together only to just pluck him away from her, just to snatch him straight from her eyes. I just thought, ooh, that's not going to go down good. But again, in Ælswith's defense, she's doing it in order to stop Ethelhelm from taking the entire kingdom away from her son, and again from Alfred in his vision. So she's almost got to use Ethelstan as a pawn in this, you know, chess game, as you like. But obviously I think she knows that her sacrifices and the sacrifices of others are, you know, it's really, really hard to take, but she's like, I have to do it. I have to go through with this, unfortunately.
I love the line where she says, you know, we just wanted a happy life with a family, and you're like, well, then you would never have been able to do that in Winchester in the palace.
Ooh, mic drop.
So you're welcome.
You're welcome. Bye. Yeah, that was really, really fun. And it's just, it's so awesome the way the scripts just bend and twist like that. Just when you think a scene is going a certain way, oh my goodness, it just changes direction. I think that's what's so exciting about watching the show, is you think you know a character and you think they're going to do something, but actually they completely surprise you. Yeah.
Totally. I got a question about a line in that scene. I think you say to Ethelstan, is the scene before, you say to Ethelstan, what do you say? You say, oh, many of Abbas would have wanted me in their ranks.
Yeah.
Was that just kind of a
your
test?
Stuff, Colby? You ain't messing around now. There's every line. I think you should play Lady Ælswith in season 5.
Oh, I think so too. I mean,
that'd be fun to get you to be
yeah. What, is that line a testament just to how pious Ælswith is? And
exactly, yeah, exactly. Okay. Just saying that, you know, if I was in another life, I would have 100% have, you know, gone down the route of, you know, obeying my God, and you know that's what she does anyway. But it would have been that would have been the life that she'd have liked to have led. Yeah, so definitely it's a nod to how pious she is, and you know, which always cracks me up, because as pious as a lot of these characters say that they are, some of the actions that they get up to are horrendous, like completely heinous. And you're thinking, are you sure God wants you to do that? Yes, God said I should do that. And you're thinking, I don't think God would approve, but okay. So yeah, but definitely everything she does is always to justify what God would have wanted. Yeah.
Did you look into the real Lady Ælswith before getting this role?
That's really interesting, Colby, because I remember in my first audition to play this role, when I was looking her up, there's a bit of information about her, but not an abundance compared to like Alfred and some of the Danes. But it said that her father was an ealdorman of the Gaini tribe, and the Gaini tribe is actually in an area that's now called Gainsborough, which is in the think it's in the county of Lincolnshire, which is where I grew up in England. That's like North England. Anyway, I was like, whoa, when I was looking her up, I was like, her father was basically lived in the place I live. So when I got to my first audition, that's the first thing I said is, well, her father was an alderman of this Gainey tribe, and that's Gainsborough. And I live pretty much near Gainsborough today. And they were like, whoa, you did your research.
Hey.
And I don't know, I feel like it let me feel a bit closer to her character. Because as I said, there wasn't a lot to go on. And as well, she was never titled a queen in her own right, actually. She was just, obviously brilliant partner and brilliant wife. But I think back then, I mean, I'm not a historian, but I think it's that, even if you're married, you're not necessarily queen. However, with Ælswith, she does get anointed queen, which is like an added layer of annoyance from Ælswith, because that's not something that she went through in Alfred's time. But they did that with Edward and his wife.
I think I read that Alfred decided not to have Ælswith become a queen because of a previous queen that was not so good, I guess. But if there's any history buffs that know better than us, please comment, and we'd love that.
That's what I mean. This is where I'm going to be caught out as a fraud. Like, she doesn't know when she's
no way.
I'm joking. But no, that's really, really interesting that and I like that they play on that in this season, and that Ælswith, now is, I think Ælswith says, being a queen is now a holy right, now, anyone could just become the queen. And it's nice to see them battling against each other in terms of who's got the power, who's got the status. And at the end of the day, even though she can call herself queen, Ælswith knows that, she's the king's mother and she has all this power. She's Alfred's wife, so don't even mess. But it's cool that she goes along with it, okay, oh really, you want to banish me? Oh, that's nice. But at the end of the day, you ain't gonna do anything.
Like the one scene where she comes up to tell you to go to your room, basically, and
exactly, and they're gonna imprison me, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, try it.
Yeah, I think it was a big surprise. We were both expecting almost a flip of what was going on. We've talked about this. We thought Edward was going to be the one that was trying to unite England. Maybe Ellsworth would be undermining it. And it was just big, 180 on us.
Exactly. And I think that was, again, a really interesting dynamic for the script writers to use, and that although King Edward is now a king, it doesn't necessarily mean he's perfect. And he's got a lot of things to learn to become the same king as his father, to be anywhere near that level. So you sort of see Edward being really, really powerful and brilliant, but making mistakes along the way, as Alfred himself did do. But you're seeing him sort of slightly lose control and not agree with what his mother wants and what his mother thinks is best, which is nice, because he's rebelling and he wants to become his own independent ruler. He's like, I don't want my mother telling me how I should do this. I am the king, so just stay out of it. But at the same time, she's going, I know you are, but I've been here a lot longer, believe me, I know how this works, just trust me when I say please do it like this. And he's going, no. So I think that's a really, really cool thing to play on, that he's not perfect, and actually he'll start learning a lot of lessons from his mother and his sister, because again, Ethelflaed is extremely powerful, and especially in this season, she goes on to be the ruler of Mercia, which is amazing and absolutely did happen in history, which is even more incredible. So he's got a lot of things to learn, and I think he almost has to stop being so proud and realize that, okay, I have to relinquish control here and listen to other people around me because they know what's best.
One of my favorite scenes that shows him with the pressure on him is when you guys are all standing around him talking, giving these ideas, like, we got to do this, we got to do this. And it just shows him going into his own world with, you hear all these voices. I felt the pressure. I was like, oh my God.
Exactly. And I only feel for that character. I feel such empathy towards him, because all of a sudden, without the presence of your father, every single thing is put on your shoulders to deal with, everything. And even though you are ordained a king and you're, the king in terms of blood, doesn't necessarily mean that you've got the knack for it or that you've got the brain for it. And obviously Edward does, but it's all about how does he evolve and how does he really become that king. But it's nice that you see him do it in his own way, even though everybody around him is trying to manipulate him and control him. It's cool to see that he's still got that independence, which actually I think is a strength, of being able to say, stop it, I will make the decision, because whatever then he does, he knows that he can take the responsibility for his actions. Whereas if he listens to 5 other people who'll be like, well, I should have probably done what I thought was best in the first place, but I listened to you 3. So So it's cool. And I think that is a very kingly thing to do, to say, no, actually, I'll take, the responsibility for this one.
So do you have a preference, or before season 4, you're pretty much kind of like that kind of malicious, except for a couple instances where, when Ethelfled was taken, and then when Edward had made that decision in the battle to go help Uhtred out, there's a couple times where you really aren't super malice, but then you go into season 4 acting in the way that you do. Do you have a preference of which character you play, or like which way you played that character?
Such a good question. I think there's a lot of fun in the sort of malicious side, for sure. And I think any actor can tell you playing a villain is really, really fun, because it's like you're doing what you would never dream of doing in real life. Like in real life, I'm so like goofy, and in this role, I get to play somebody who's so stoic and steely, and I just do not act like that in real life. So for me, I think I really enjoy delving into that side, because it's just such a rarity for me to feel that way, and also to feel that powerful. But I will say it's a really nice challenge to try and incorporate all of that, sort of malicious, dark, villainous stuff with a little bit of the softness. If I can try and almost do both at the same time, I think that really works well, because she's not 100% changing, but you can see, okay, there's a human being in there. So I think I like to play with a bit of both, for sure.
And you do in season 4. And another moment that I remember where you do save the day is when you tell Edith to go get you more firewood, and they kind of laugh about it. But hey, I think Ælswith knew something was going to go down, because while she's going to get firewood, Heston comes in and gets you guys.
Oh yeah.
Wait, I didn't even think of it like that. This is what I mean. You two, you're geniuses. You know more about the plot than I would ever do. But that is so true. If she hadn't have sent Edith to get more wood, Edith wouldn't have been able to watch from afar and then save them at the end of the day. So really, Ælswith saved Uhtred's ass. Thank you very much.
That's what I'm saying. Ælswith was the key this whole season.
Right? That is so true. She knew maybe some danger was afoot.
I think she had a gut. She had a gut feeling.
Exactly. The force be with you. Speaking of that scene, though, that was literally one of my favorite scenes to film, because as I said, I'm not always in the direct action. Like usually I'm in a palace corridor just scowling at someone, whereas this was like, okay, we're right in there with the Danes and Uhtred's gang, and we're in a forest, and I'd never in this whole entire show been able to film a scene like that. So that was just awesome. And also, one of my favorite actors is Jeppe Beck Larsen, who plays Heston, obviously, who you guys have had on, and he's just so good. And what my favorite thing about Heston is, although he can be really villainous and malicious, he's also so hilarious and cheeky and sly. So you just love him. You're like, oh, you're doing some like bad things, man, but damn, you're funny. So it's just gorgeous what he does.
True. Yeah, a lot of the Vikings and the Danes in the Last Kingdom do that too, but yeah, and Heston kind of going back to like Ubba and Guthrum, but Heston definitely carries that torch moving forward for sure.
Exactly. And even though he's like sneaky and you don't trust him, you just love having him around anyway. I just can't wait to see what he says next. He just cracks me up. Yeah. So that was fun being more in the direct action with those guys, for sure. Yeah.
You got to be on a horse this season too. I think it's first on a horse. Was that your first time riding, or have you done in the past?
It absolutely was my first time, and I was petrified. I'm not a natural horse rider, that is for sure. But we have the most incredible stunt team and fight coordinators, and they also help us with the horse riding as well. So while we were out in Budapest filming, I got a couple of horse riding lessons, and obviously I wasn't on the horse for very long, just like a couple of scenes, but it was so scary. And I don't know how the others do it, because they're obviously fighting on horses. They're running, they're galloping, they're doing all the craziest things. All I had to do was like walk slowly, and I couldn't do it for my life. Have you guys ever done it?
Yeah,
I've ridden horses before, but not extensively.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean, because it's amazing when people make it look effortless and really, really easy. And that's why I have to say, like, not only our stunt team and our fight coordinators, but our cast they're just so natural at it. Well, at least they look like they are. They're really brilliant.
Yeah, you watch people on these shows and you're like, oh, it's like getting on a car. But when you're riding it, it's
easy.
like this moving thing under you that doesn't really like it either.
Exactly. You don't know if they're going to buck up or if you've done something they don't like. Or for me, it was just I couldn't get the horse to keep moving. You have to squeeze with your legs. And I'm like, I am squeezing. And this poor horse is just like, no, you're not doing anything. Get off. And I was like, okay.
You look like a pro riding up to Ælswith with your crew. So
thank you,
nice
Colby.
job on that.
Imagine if I was like, no, it was all CGI, darling. no, I actually was riding the horse.
All post.
Yeah, all post, darling. No, just stuck my face on someone else. But yeah, that was really, really fun. And we actually filmed that. It felt like we were on a cliff edge that day. We were on a really steep sort of hillside when we were filming that. So not only was I on the horse, but I was at the front, and all the amazing sporting artists behind me on horses. But we were on literally like a hill edge, and they were like, "Okay, action!" And I thought, "Oh my goodness, this might be my end. Cool ending, but this might be it." But luckily it was like 10 seconds long, so we survived.
Speaking of ending, and you probably can't speak much to this, but you are kind of left in the balance though at the end of the season here.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh, did she die? Did she not die?
Yes.
Are they letting us know for sure either way? Do you know?
I know as much as you do
okay.
at this point. And that's kind of fun because I think anything could happen at this point with not even just Ellsworth, but all the characters. It's interesting. I don't know. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to see what happens next. And it's even nice that Ellsworth had such a big part in this show, because as I said, I think in the books when Alfred dies, she kind of goes to a nunnery and lives a really, really pious and quiet, calm life, and sort of lets Edward and Ethelfled get on with it. I'm sure she had things to say during their reign, but she kind of took more of a back seat. Whereas with this season, they said, no, we want you kind of full throttle in the action, which has been really awesome, because I didn't even expect that to happen either. So yeah,
very interesting. So speaking of Alfred's death, because that's another amazing scene going back to season 3 a little bit, could you tell us a little bit about that, what that scene was like? Because watching it is so powerful.
I mean, David Dawson, we all say it, but he is one of the most magnificent actors that I've ever had the honor to work with, seriously, and to also call a best friend, because he's such a generous actor. He gives so much to the other actors in the scene, and whenever you're doing a scene with him, you feel very safe. So I was really lucky that most of my scenes were by his side. So knowing that we would lose him not only as Alfred, as the character, but as David, as a presence on set and somebody that we could no longer act with, actually feeling the sadness and the grief over his death in terms of the character wasn't hard for any of us, because we just knew we were losing him altogether. So yeah, those scenes were really, really tough, because it was like, gosh, this is actually marking an ending with you, David, as well as with you, Alfred. So they were kind of weird days, very, very sad, but I don't know, we're such a fun cast, so then we'd all get together and try and just have a party and be silly. But yeah, knowing that we were going to lose him anyway, it didn't make it too difficult to feel those things. And he's such a big fan of the show now, and I've been talking to him loads and been like, what's it like watching it now as an audience member? That must be quite bizarre. Something that you've had the most humongous presence with, now you get to take a step back and watch it for what it is, and he's just loving it. He absolutely loves it.
Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's a part in season 3 that we wanted to talk about, and Steve and I had to rewatch this part a few times because it made us laugh a lot. I don't know if you know what we're talking about, but when I think Ethelhelm's walking into the throne room, and Alfred's a little too weak to yell for the guards to leave, and he's like, tells you to tell him, and you just snap at this guard, and the guard is just like.
I think I know what you mean. Is it when I'm like, there's nothing in between their helmets but straw? Do I say that?
You say
that
that
might be another scene, but I think I know what you mean. Yeah. So funny. So God's like, whoa.
I'm just here doing my job. I'm just doing a good job.
That is brilliant. Brilliant. Oh my gosh. Do you know what? I love that there's a lot of witty comedy within the script. As mean as a lot of the villainous characters are, I think they're actually always pretty funny. And speaking of Ethelhelm, Adrian Schiller, that plays Ethelhelm in season 3 and 4, is astonishing. And in real life, again, you know, the loveliest man you'll ever meet, but yet playing such a devious villain. But he's just got this like way about him that he can be so witty and delicious in all the scenes, as well as really, really cutting and steely. So
Totally.
he's just brilliant. Because he almost became my new scene partner, you know, losing David. Then a lot of my scenes became with Adrian Schiller, and he's just fantastic. Just, he can do anything. Brilliant guy. Yeah.
He's a good character to love to hate, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Actually, he's taken the crown off of me in terms of like meanest Saxon. I'm like, here you go, you have it. Now everyone hates you, and everyone likes Ellsworth now. He's like, okay.
So what are some things that you love about Ellsworth?
That is a very, very good question. I think I admire her ferocity, that she's not afraid to sometimes say really, really calculating things in order to get what she wants for her kingdom. I think that's a really impressive quality, that she's not afraid to talk to anyone, whether it's Saxon or Dane. You know, sometimes the most fearsome warriors, she's putting them in their place like she's their grandmother. It's really quite astonishing, and they take it half the time. They go, oh, okay. You know, and to have that power and to wield that much authority, and I'd say respect, but I don't think they necessarily respect it, because there's all these like side jabs about, here's Lady Ælswith saying all this, there. So, but it's still, they do what she asks, and they do what she says. So I think I really admire that in her. She seems to not be afraid of anything. A lot of gumption. Yeah.
Very cool.
If you need to boss someone around in your real life, do you put the hair down to the side?
Yes,
you just
like,
tie it in
right,
front.
that's it. Do what I ask. I'm sick of it.
You haven't cleaned the bathroom in 2 weeks.
Tether. Exactly. But like, yeah, in real life, I'm actually probably the worst at doing that. Like, I am the least kind of scary person, honestly. It's probably my worst quality. Yeah.
That's something you pointed out, is everyone, when they come and actually see you like on social media, just how different you are compared to, I mean, we all recognize, you know, the show isn't reality, but it is shocking when you're like, oh, she's like a really exciting, happy person. Compared
I think
to
Harry said the heart and soul of the cast, I think he said in his interview.
What?
That you were.
Like me? What?
That you were, yes.
Well, he could talk, because honestly, I was going to make sure I mentioned Harry in this, because Harry McIntyre is without a doubt one of the most incredible actors and just the funniest person on and off set. Like, he would make our days just full of laughter. He's so clever. And in terms of like the history, he knows everything. He's read every book. He really does his research. He's so prepared. He's so detailed. And like, again, as somebody who's nothing like their character, in the sense that Ethelwald is a cheeky little, you know-it-all, kind of just naughty, mischievous, like always he's very selfish, he's, you know, but Harry is just a diamond. And like, the fact that he said that about me, I'm going to say right back at you, because I honestly have always seen him as that. And just like losing David, when we knew we were going to lose Harry, it was a big blow to us for sure, because the two of them just totally made it what it is, and we couldn't have done it without them. And also another shout out to Julia, who plays Tura, Bayoka's wife, another just unbelievable performer, who again is nothing like her character in real life. You know, Julia is an actual living angel, and Truda is obviously a wonderful heavenly character, but it's just so much. She can just completely transform. And also, because we lost Tobias Santelman, who plays Ragnar, again, another hugely beloved character, and again, hugely beloved cast member. So yeah, all in all, I think everybody, we're all such a family. And I know it sounds gushy and I go on about it, but we genuinely are the coolest, tightest cast. And because this is one of my first jobs out of drama school, I kind of didn't know any other cast like this. I'd done a couple of little jobs, but it wasn't very long. I didn't get to know the people like I do on this. And I think it's just set the highest standard in terms of how the cast should treat each other. And also the crew, we've got an amazing crew, and there really is that family vibe. And any new character that comes in always feels completely welcome. And we just all get on like a house on fire.
We love to hear that because we see it and we see it on the show, and we just love to see that you guys actually are a family behind the scenes. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And especially I think with like Uhtred's gang, with the boys, I think they're so just tight in real life. They're always hanging out, being cool, going to the gym, being silly. And, you know, you see that done on screen. And I think that's really, really powerful.
Totally. And now we have season 4 brings in some really cool characters in like Steora, young Uhtred. Sigtrygr is a badass. He's cool.
My favorite. My absolute favorite. Yeah.
What was it like working with the new cast members then this season?
That was awesome. And I think any time that we get like new cast members, it just invigorates everybody further. It like injects a freshness into the whole entire story and the script. So working with them was just like awesome, and they're fantastic actors. And I also think it's really hard to come into something when it's on its 4th season. You know, you imagine that, you know, they've already created this family and they've created this world. You know, how do I just jump in there and be a big part of it? But I think that's why the whole cast being so welcome, it only then gets the best performance out of all the new actors for sure. So they were fantastic. And Ruby, who plays Steora, is absolutely brilliant. You know, Uhtred's daughter, I think it's such a lovely role, and her relationship with Sigtrygr is really fascinating. Very cool.
Cool. She does a good job of like, you can see Uhtred and Gisela in her.
Right, the casting is spot on. When I first met her, I did think you look a lot like so gorgeous Perry Baumeister, who played Gisela, another astonishing actress. But you know, they definitely look alike, and at the same time, you can see Uhtred for sure. And I love her character because she again isn't afraid of anything. She's just like her father. She takes after him, that really hardcore warrior spirit, and it's epic to see.
Totally. So, do you have any challenges when it comes to playing Ælswith?
Challenges, I suppose. Do you know what the biggest challenge is? Probably to keep a straight face. When they call action, just because like we're such goofs, and like I am not kidding when I'm doing like goofy accents, singing, like we're doing all kinds of silly stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, rolling action. And the hardest challenge is to probably like you switch and get all serious.
You have a favorite scene or a favorite moment when you were shooting the show?
One, I have a lot. Think of the favorite. There's so many. I think all the like nice intimate scenes with David Dawson were really interesting, where you see Alfred and Ælswith when they're not being, you know, the king and his lady in front of the Witten or in front of, you know, these eldermen. You see them in their bedroom chamber or in the chapel praying together, and you see the more intimate side to them, which I think is really, really nice and really, really fun for us to play, because I don't know, I think it just delved more into what their relationship meant to one another, and, you know, their devotion for each other and their God and their kingdom. Like that is just awesome. They're like the Barack and Michelle of 898 years. Just trying to rule their kingdoms best they can. It's sweet, really sweet.
Speaking of a scene in the bedchamber, we were talking like, you know exactly what it is to say to Alfred to make sure you stay, by saying like, we're going to make an awesome England. And he's just like,
to get him going, she talks about like the negotiations of the kingdoms. Like, oh, wow, okay. Like there's bedroom talk, and then there's, whoa, okay. It works for you, you know what I mean? Like, that is such a, when I first read that script, I was laughing. I was like, I cannot believe, you know, that's the thing that gets them going. But I quite love that, you know, their love for, you know, everything that they're fighting for is the thing that actually brings them together romantically and sexually, you know. That's quite cool.
And then Heston's smart enough to know to get on your good graces at the dinner table in season 3 to be like, oh yeah, my wife's gonna get baptized and kids are gonna get baptized, and
that little sneak, just saying anything he can to wield, you know, get in there. So what I mean, he's just so cheeky and mischievous. He knows what to do. It's clever, that little Heston. Yeah, totally. I love that.
So any other different changes to your approach to Ælswith coming into season 4 compared to the other 3 seasons?
Definitely, like without David Dawson knowing that, okay, there's going to be a lot more power and responsibility on Ælswith's shoulders, and very, you know, independently, and that actually I'd feel quite alone a lot of the time. It's a much more isolating role in the sense that she doesn't have her husband there to help her or guide her or show her the way or to take control, that actually it's all on her. And the sort of pushback from especially Edward, not so much Ethelfled, but the rebellion of Edward made it much harder. And reading those scripts and knowing that, okay, I'm actually going to be fighting a lot with my own family here, which is not something, you saw a lot of in the past. Obviously, they were not happy when they saw that Edward had sort of married without the, approval of God and whatnot, that they were obviously getting their back up about. But yeah, just coming at it knowing like, okay, I'm very much on my own here, but it was a cool challenge for sure. I really did enjoy playing it, and also seeing that I'd have more of a relationship with Uhtred. I think in Ep 9, the scene when they are in the forest, and it's the first time she kind of apologizes to him and says, wow, I've finally seen what my husband has been seeing in you this whole time. And maybe Alfred was the only one, and like Father Pureleg and everyone's like, no, we all knew. It's only you that only have just woken up now to see like how amazing he is.
And Uhtred's like not having it at all.
It's like, oh, whatever, I'm done with you. I'm just so done. But but that just shows like how loyal Uhtred is, that after everything that Ælswith has done and thrown back in his face, even though in her defense she still thought that was the best way, and has obviously now realized, okay, maybe I did the wrong thing. But even after all of that, Uhtred's still saying yes to looking after her, trying to be loyal to King Edward. He is just amazing as a hero figure. The guy is he's unbelievable, relentlessly epic. And like, even when he's sacrificing his own life to save King Edward's children, when he puts himself back into Winchester through the gates with Sigtryggr and the Danes, that, and his own son is there. So, and he's literally in front of his own son going, I'm going to have to go in here and do this to save Edward's children. I think is like, oh, that's a lot. That's extremely heroic.
And anytime we doubt him for what he does, like in season 3, there's 2 moments. One when he fights Citric and he goes off, and then the other time when he has Skade, and
he seems like he's liking
seems like he loves
now.
her. We're like, Uhtred, come on, dude.
That and actually another moment with King Alfred and putting a knife to his throat. Do you remember that scene where he turns on all of us? And that's the thing that I think Ælswith has carried through into this season 4 is, sort of in the first few episodes, she's still very much, disapproving of Uhtred, but then she keeps saying it's because he held a knife to Alfred's throat. He was threatening to kill our king, my everything. That's what he was doing. How can I still forgive that? But then, I think she realizes that he was just being tested. He was tested so much. It was like he was being pushed and pulled in that direction, and no matter what he did, nobody was happy with him. And I think he thought, you know what? Screw this. I don't know who I pledge allegiance to anymore, because none of you are happy with me no matter what I do. So actually, screw you all. I'm going to go off. I'm going to rebel. I'm going to put a knife to your throat, show you what for. I'm going to run off with this Viking queen girl, and I don't blame him in a way.
Then try to put as the audience, put yourself in Ellsworth's shoes. We see Uhtred's side of it pretty much in that situation. But if you look at Ellsworth's shoes, this guy just held a knife to your husband's throat.
Exactly.
So of course you're gonna,
and that's why when people keep going, but why doesn't she like him? And I kind of, it's always back to that notion of, well, he was potentially going to kill our everything. So if he'd have gone through with that, that would have been it. Obviously, if he'd have harmed him even more than he did, and he punched him, and that was a really brutal scene, and really cool for need him in the stomach, and for David and Alex to play that was very wild, because obviously there's always been that respect between Uhtred and Alfred, and even when Alfred really lets his ferocity shine on Uhtred still complies, and he might push back a bit, but at the end of the day he still complies. But then this just flipped, and Uhtred went, right, I've had it, and I think then we were all like, whoa, okay, you're capable of anything actually, and that's why she just really doesn't trust him.
Yeah,
totally.
First time we were watching this through, I think we were with everyone else. We were like, "Oh, Uhtred, he's perfect all the time. Why is everyone against him?" But rewatching it though, you do see everyone else's perspective, like how you're saying. You see, oh, he did held the knife to his throat. Sometimes when he asks for something, he's like, "Oh, can I have men?" He has an ulterior motive. He was like, "Oh, I'll help you do that, but doing that, I get Skade." Or doing that.
Exactly.
So yeah, that is something I think if you watch back through, you'll see that might be why then Ælswith questions him all this time. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think that's just like really interesting for us all to play, because it means that we're not all 100% angels and we're not all 100% evil. Like we're all on a spectrum depending on what we want or what we think is best for us or our family, or it's high stakes constantly. It's really life and death throughout the whole entire, script. It's any small move that you make can have the most detrimental consequences. So that's why I feel like, especially in this season, everybody is at that peak of what they want. So for me, it's like I have to let Alfred's legacy come to fruition. And then for Edward, it's like I have to be the best king I can be, but on my terms. And then for Ethelfled, it's like I have to look after this new kingdom that's now in my hands. And everybody's just getting what they want, but it's a frenzy. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Did you have a favorite moment from this season?
Favorite moment to film? I actually, because I didn't get that many scenes with Millie Brady, my wonderful daughter, Lady Ethelfled, who just blew me away in this season. She always blows me away. But like everything that she did with Toby Regbo as Ethelred, like their scenes. I mean, literally every time I watch them, I was texting Millie going, "Oh my God, like, you're unbelievable." And she's just so unbelievable. And because obviously Lady Ethelfled has gained a lot of independence now in this season, I actually didn't get to see that much of Millie and Lady Ethelfled. So the few scenes that I got to film with Millie were probably some of my favorite bits. I mean, the whole thing was amazing, but like being able to film with her was awesome.
I think Ethelfled's phrase when Ethelred dies is it just hits what everybody was thinking. She's like, I've been waiting so long looking forward to when he was going to die, and now that it happens, like I don't want it to or something. And it's just like that's how we all felt. It's like
exactly.
That was a cool.
And the same thing, I suppose, would apply to Lady Ælsworth's character. You've been hating this person all along, and then the potential notion of them never being here again is like, oh, just when we were beginning to sort of like you. It's the same with Ethelred.
Yeah.
Just as he began to apologize and started to know the error of his ways, it's like, oh no, but it's too late. It's too late, and it just made it so heartbreaking. And everything that Toby Regbo did with those scenes just blew my mind. So, I mean, unbelievable actor. Yeah, they were hard scenes to watch for sure.
Totally. And now you have a lot of scenes though with Edward, with Timothy Ines. And could you maybe walk us through? One of my favorites is when you're in your room, your chambers, reading your the Chronicle, and he comes in and you say something like, "This is not the way if you want to be revered."
But you know every line. Like, please, can you play her next season? This is insane. Every line. It blown me away. Honestly, I've forgotten half of the script. So yeah, it's cool to be reminded. But I know the scene you mean, and it's that push-pull with Edward and his mother, and that he's being like, no, I'm the king. I'm the one who makes decisions. Don't go behind my back with my sister and make new negotiations that I'm now finding out about through Elderman or, my peers. Why are you doing this? And she's, her thing is like, well, if I didn't do it, I know that you wouldn't have done it. So I had to go behind your back and do it for you because you wouldn't have agreed otherwise, and you've got to know that I'm doing it for the greater good and you'll thank me one day. But I totally see what he's saying, and it's like, but you're not the king. That is my decision. I don't want everybody knowing that my mother has done these things without my knowledge or consent. Like, that's insane. But this is what I mean about them all wanting something and almost doing anything that they can to get what they want, even if it means alienating people in their own family just so that they can accomplish this big goal or this ambition or whatever. Yeah, so I love doing that scene. That was really, really fun. And as I said, like Tim and I are just such awesome friends, and he's a fantastic actor. Like, he's just completely like owning this. Like, King Edward's obviously growing up from being a really young boy, teenager. Now we see him becoming this fantastic man and this leader, and I think he's just done the most amazing job. And again, because we're the same age, it's really, really fun being his mom. Being his mama for the day, it cracks me up. But yeah, I really enjoyed those scenes. Their ever-growing animosity is very interesting.
Totally. And another little detail is with Ælsworth, I think is his name, the other boy, your other grandson, actually. But Ethelhelm keeps like, don't go near her. Come here.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
it's like, ooh, That's her grandson right there.
Exactly. And I love that we see that from the beginning, like this Ethelhelm, she thought would be a really, really wonderful ally of hers, because he's from Mercian stock, just like Ælswith. So she was begging for Alfred to have him come into our kingdom and marry, have his daughter marry our son. So that was all Ælswith's idea. We must have Lord Ethelhelm. He's the only one that I approve of. And to now, him being the worst person she could imagine having around, and him taking the throne from her and her son, and it's really, really cool from the beginning, seeing that her other grandson doesn't like her at all because he's just twisting Ælfweard against Ælswith. Yeah, it's quite sad. And again, I think that's where you start to see the human sides to Ælswith and think, oh, actually, she's just trying to be a good grandmother. And, he's taking that from her and manipulating the whole situation for his own selfish gain.
Yeah, I think anybody looking back at season 4 and wherever the Last Kingdom goes in the future, they got to remember how big a role Ælswith played in season 4. I mean,
oh, thank you, Colby. Thank you. And what are you guys' favorite characters? Tell me who's your absolute favorite, even from like season 1. If you got someone who's just like, oh, okay, epic.
I like Eric a lot.
Yes,
I mean,
Eric.
Uhtred and Finan, they're awesome. And how could they not be your favorites? But Eric was such an interesting character. And we actually just talked to Christian Hilborg the other day, which was a blast. Yeah, what about you, Steve?
I mean, that's a tough one because they're changing all the time. And someone like Aldhelm, someone you kind of hated from the beginning. Now you like him, like your character. I mean, I really liked Ubba. Ubba's a classic one for me.
He's my favorite. I was going to say Ubba. Yeah, Runa Tempted playing Ubba is the craziest thing. He's wild as Ubba. I love it.
If you had to switch characters then with someone else, who would you be then?
Oh, Ubba. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I always say Ubba. He's just nuts. And again, how we can have this ferocious, nasty, murderous Dane, but we love him. But we think he's hilarious, and we think, there's something really entertaining about him. But at the same time, he's like a cold-blooded killer. That's what I find wow, how amazing the actor is to make you kind of like them, even though they're just doing the worst things. And also, I really love the character of Scorpa, who was in season 1. And, I wish we'd have had more of Scorpa. But again, another really naughty, just exciting villain that you just want to watch because you don't know what the heck they're going to do next. I just think that's so thrilling to watch.
They really set a precedent for all the Great Danes and all the seasons after to have that humor, yet that heart, yet that viciousness. I mean, exactly. Siegfried and Eric embody it so well. Or
just Bjorn and Christian, the best duo ever. They're just fantastic. Yeah, everything they do on screen. As you say, it's interesting because Eric is ferocious, but at the same time so sensitive, so vulnerable when it came to protecting Lady Ethelfled. He'd do anything and saw her innocence and wanted to protect that. And you think, what? In a really scary Dane, you want to do that? But it's nice, makes them human.
Totally.
And also talking about the Danes of this season, we were just touching upon Sigtrygr.
Woo! Oh, he's a new favorite. Yeah.
He's unbelievable. And Aston, who plays him, again, couldn't be any different to Sigtrygr if you tried. The sweetest, loveliest, kindest man, and who just then switches on this super intelligent and frightening and very controlled air of just strength and power. And I think that's what I like, is that he's not the classic he can do that. He's he does that when they set fire to when the Welsh are coming, and that's an amazing scene. They set fire to everyone, he can still pull it all in and then really scare you through how calm he is. I think that's really, really clever. I love that.
He's got some swagger, that's for sure.
He's got some swagger.
Big style. Yeah, he's absolutely one of my favorites. So I'm excited to see if anything happens with them and with Stiora and their relationship. Yeah.
Very cool. It's definitely a very strong cast that's going to be moving forward, and like we talked about earlier, we'll see, hopefully we'll see some more Ellsworth in season 5. We hope.
Yeah, hope so. Fingers crossed. Beards crossed.
Beards crossed.
If you do come back, what do you hope you get to do or see Ellsworth going? Where would you like her to go?
Very good question, Steve. I think on the battlefield with a sword, with Hild, ninja nuns.
Oh, I love Hild too.
I love Hild. Hild is an amazing character. But yeah, doing most outlandish on Ælswith stuff would be epic. Just
More
like
horse riding.
Like let it go crazy. More horse riding, shields, swords, axes. Give me everything.
Yeah. I definitely want to see the Hild Ælswith team up now. I have to see that.
You know, right? The ninja nuns. It'd be
There you
insane.
If any of Ellsworth's maliciousness could transfer from just her words to battle skills, oh my God, she'd beat anybody.
She'd be the most ferocious, the most frightening, like rageful. I'd love it.
So Eliza, outside of acting, what other passions do you have?
I love learning raps, as you probably
We noticed that.
Seen that. That's obviously just one of the small ones. I'm a big music and dance fan. I love like salsa dancing. I big into like baking.
And doing those things together, we noticed.
And doing those things together. Why not? Why not combine the two things that you love? So yeah, exactly. Baking and rapping. What other things? I love jazz singing, which I used to do a lot of when I was a bit younger, but not so much these days. But I'm going to try and get back into this sort of singing game. And what else? Oh, I've just started archery. Obviously before the lockdown, I've always wanted to learn how to do archery. And obviously there's a lot of archery going on in the Last Kingdom, which obviously Ellsworth wouldn't get up to, but I think I always used to watch them and think that's such a cool skill. So I've been trying to get into that. So yeah, maybe in the future trying out even more archery would be really, really cool.
Be awesome.
Yes.
I mean, that's how she works in to the battlefield then.
You know, this is the ninja nun skill. Give her like a bow and arrow. Bow! That would be sick. So cool.
Do you have any other goals as an actress?
That's a good question. I think when I went to drama school in London, we initially learned a lot about Shakespeare and classical text. And my real passion and love was actually in theatre acting, and mainly the old classical works and texts. So like Shakespeare, Jacobean, Restoration theatre was my jam. And then obviously came out, and then have kind of only been doing TV, which I've loved, absolutely loved. You know, that's the coolest avenue. But I think I'd like to then get back more into the theatre world. And in England, we've got a theatre called Shakespeare's Globe, which is just a super renowned, famous, amazing theatre where they put on all of Shakespeare's pieces. And I think if I got to work there one day, I think I'd be like, oh, goals complete, because I love that kind of theatre.
What do you like to watch here during quarantine? You watching anything on TV besides?
Well, so The Last Dance, and I obviously watched The Tiger King. I said everyone,
You
because I was
did?
just like, what is everyone talking about? Why is this? Who's this Carol Baskin? So I had
Did
to
she do it?
watch. I think she probably did. Do you think so? Also,
I
somebody
do.
has definitely compared Ælswith to Carol Baskin. They're like, she's the Carol Baskin of the Last Kingdom. And like,
Ellsworth
they're
is
not
way
wrong.
cooler than Carol Baskin, all right?
Way cooler. And then that's the scary thing about Carol, is she's acting so sweet and like, hi, you cool cats and kittens. But under that could be a murderer. Whereas at least with Ælswith, you know what you're going to get. She's just going to be mean to you. You know where she stands. She don't like you. That's it.
Totally.
How about you guys? What have you been watching? You got anything to recommend?
I mean, I've just finished up Better Call Saul. I don't know if you're into Breaking Bad and stuff.
So I love Breaking Bad so much that I named my dog Tuco Salamanca after the Mexican
No, you did
drug dealer
not.
from season 1. Oh yes.
What?
Oh, I love it. I've even
Is
got
he like Tuco?
Yeah, Tuco. His name is Tuco.
But does he act like Tuco?
I mean, nothing like tight. But he's naughty. He's a rebel, that's for sure. So he pretty much is rebellious little gangster. And I even have like, this sounds so weird, but my friends know I love Breaking Bad so much that they give me the sachets of the blue crystal meth, the fictional crystal meth. It's just like salt dyed in blue, but like I have sachets of it everywhere around the house, so it does look a bit strange.
Totally.
Yeah, so watching Better Call Saul, I haven't actually watched that yet, but I'd like to get into that.
I'll tell you this. It gets almost as good, if not as good at Breaking Bad as Breaking Bad at times.
Really? Oh
It
my
is
gosh,
phenomenal.
I'm so excited to hear
Yes,
that.
it's very good.
Did you watch El Camino as well?
Yeah, I
one with
did,
Aaron
yeah.
Paul? Yeah, that's awesome.
Did you?
Just like
It was a fun little movie.
I did. Yeah, very fun. Just a good take on what happens next. But yeah, Better Call Saul for sure. I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, check that
How
one.
about you, Steve? Are you watching anything?
I've been going back through the Rocky movies and the Creed movies too.
Oh, that's awesome.
The new
That's
ones are my
so good.
favorites. The new Creed ones, honestly, because of the Rocky movies,
Yeah.
it might be the best, honestly.
Wow, I love that. I'm very big into like those kinds of films, but also like Italian American gangster movies. So like Goodfellas, Godfather. Oh, huge! Like the biggest Al Pacino fan.
Oh, have you seen Dog Day Afternoon?
I have with
That's an
John.
awesome-
So it's Al Pacino and John Calzali. I think I'm getting
so.
that right. The two of them are unbelievable.
That's an amazing movie.
Oh, it's so thrilling. It's like full of suspense. I'm like, what's going on? I
And it's
love
funny.
that film. And it's really funny. Oh my gosh, the two of them are just that blew my mind. That and obviously The Irishman. Have you guys
I haven't
watched that?
seen that yet.
I've
You haven't
seen the
seen
end
it?
of it. I've only seen the end. I walked in someone's
Ooh.
house and I was like, well, now I know how it ends. And the
Uh-oh.
ending was,
Yeah.
spoiler alert for anyone, it was depressing for me when I was watching. I was just like,
And they're getting older, and then yeah. I know what you mean. It's certainly like an epic saga. It feels very massive, and but I just seeing them all together like that. I think Joe Pesci is probably my favorite.
would you recommend it though? Recommend it?
Definitely. But the thing is, I saw it at the cinema like the week it came out, and I feel like watching it on the cinema screen is very different. I think when you're watching on Netflix on your TV, you can get distracted, and it's such an epic film. It's like 3.5 hours long, that if you're in a cinema, you'll just give it your full attention, whereas maybe at home you'll be like, whatever, after like an hour and a half. But I would say try it, persevere, because it's epic, and their acting is obviously like, out of this world. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So you said you're into rap. What kind of artist are you into?
Oh my goodness. So loads. In terms of like American rappers, he's rapper and singer. Anderson .Paak is probably my absolute favorite. I love like old school, like Outkast. I love Childish Gambino, Chance the Rapper, J. Cole. I love Big Boy, and just so many. And in terms of, do you guys ever listen to like British grime rap?
No.
I don't know.
It's big in like London and big in the UK, but like I think like in America it's becoming more of a thing. Like Drake is a huge fan of like the UK grime scene, and then we have rappers like Skepta, Stormzy, J Hus. They're all it's very like, I don't know, it gets me going. It's music that you definitely should be playing in the gym.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
I've been looking for some new stuff for the gym, so definitely check that out.
Check out Skepta.
Skepta.
He's my favorite. Yeah.
Gotcha.
How about you guys? Do you listen to much rap and stuff?
A lot of Cardi B for me recently,
Cardi
honestly.
B.
Yeah, Cardi B.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love Cardi B. Oh,
Okay. I can't do it.
That was perfect. I like a guy named Watsky.
Watsky. Ooh, I'll check him out. But I'll be learning some more raps. My new rap that I want to learn. I don't know if you guys have heard the song with Twista and Kanye. It's the fastest rap I've ever heard, Twista doing it. And what's the song called again? I can't believe the song has just left my mind. But anyway, I'm going to try and learn a new rap, and it's extremely...
Ooh, keep an eye on that.
Are we going to be able to see it while you're cooking some stir fry?
Exactly. Making some lasagna, a little casserole.
Oh, yeah.
Doing some raps. Yeah.
So you like to cook. What's your best thing to bake?
I'm an okay cook, but I'm probably a better baker. So I love like the brownies, cupcakes, big cakes and stuff. But my mother is Italian American, so she's an amazing cook, like lasagnas and every kind of spaghetti and pasta, and like she's brilliant, like with like tiramisu. So like, anything Italian, I kind of grew up eating that kind of food.
Cool.
But I'm trying to get better,
Very,
but the
very
Italians invented all the naughtiest foods: pizza, pasta,
It's the
and ice
best
cream.
food.
Whoops. Yeah.
Those are
The
my
best.
favorites all right there.
They're my
It's
favorites
everything
too.
you need.
Anything
It's the
pasta.
best. Exactly.
I'm down.
Exactly. So I'm trying to get better at just I've never made my own homemade pasta, but that's something I'm going to try in the future, especially in lockdown. And we've got all the time in the world. So
Yeah.
I think that's what Magnus told us. We asked him what his like favorite dish was to make, and I think that's what he said. Some kind of easy bake pasta.
ooh, that sounds good. Yeah. Oh, that's the best. And I've been eating terribly during the lockdown.
Oh, really?
Just anything I can get. I'm like, how about you guys? Have you been like doing a regime or just been doing whatever?
I've been eating Kraft mac and cheese.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to go.
Just like I did in college.
Cheese.
I'm not a cook though.
We've been trying. I think I've been trying to. We've been trying to stick with a regime with the podcast and everything, but definitely fall off into junk food and everything all the time.
Yeah. Oh my god. 100%. And I'm just like, that's why I'm like baking so much, because then I'm like, I've got banana bread of the yin yang in my house just to eat whenever. But it's naughty.
yeah.
It's very naughty.
Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about what we could look forward from you in the future?
Absolutely. So Mark Rowley, who plays Feenan, and I were really lucky that we actually got to act together again, but in a very different project. Still filmed out in Budapest, which was awesome. But this one is called The North Water, and it's starring Colin Farrell, Stephen Graham, and Jack O'Connell. And Mark Rowley and I are really lucky because we get to play opposite each other in extremely different ways than Feenan and Ælswith would probably be able to communicate. But that's going to be set to be quite an awesome winter production for the BBC, hopefully coming out still this year, but we'll see how things go. But yeah.
Cool. Is that hard to shift gears, like with the way you act with him?
Not really. Well, only because obviously the characters are starkly different, but I think because we're such amazing friends and know each other so well, we know what each other is capable of. We just push each other in different directions, and we're like so comfortable with it. So if anything, it's just like really fun to get out all those other sides of each other. And obviously, like Feenan and Ellsworth don't get a lot of scenes together in the last Kingdom.
That's true.
Then finally come together but be completely different. It's just like super fun.
What time period is that set in there?
I believe it's like the 1700s, late 1700s. Again,
Okay.
I'm terrible at my history. I probably got this completely wrong, but I believe it's the late 1700s. And it follows Colin Farrell, who is a whale harpooner back in that day. And he plays a really interesting guy. Very interesting guy. And this is also based off a novel as well called The North Water.
That's
And I think The Last
So-
Kingdom fans will definitely be enjoying seeing Mark and I in a very different capacity. I think that's going to be really fun.
Totally.
Yeah.
So do you know the timeline for that?
I'm not sure at the moment, just due to the circumstances, but I think it was set to be like a winter drama. So, and
Cool.
it definitely feels of that ilk, definitely for a winter drama. So hopefully it'll still come out. But yeah, this one's set to be really cool. And I just love Colin Farrell, Stephen Graham, and Jack O'Connell are just like epic. So being anywhere near them was like the best day of my life. Literally, they are so cool, the three of them.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
We look forward to that for sure.
You guys, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we don't want to take too much more of your time. We really appreciate you coming on. It's been great. We've had a
Yeah,
Thank
really
you
fun
so
time.
much for having me, you guys. And honestly, like your support and all your work for our show is just the best thing ever. Like we all talk about you guys and how much we've loved like watching your videos and interviews and reviews.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's just so much
Thank
fun.
you,
So
thank
thank you for doing everything you do.
Oh, thanks. It's just been a lot of fun. And we just feel very fortunate to have these opportunities and to
Yes.
learn more from behind the show. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. And let's hope there's another season for us all to delve into soon. You never know.
There's
I'm
gotta be.
sure there will be. It's been trending. It's been ranked #1, I think, for a while, on and off, right? So
Honestly, we were like blown away by that. Like we can only just thank the fans for watching and getting behind us. Like, yeah, that totally blew us away. So hopefully maybe that puts us in good stead for the future.
yeah,
Totally.
that was a big motivation for us for starting this, was just to get people to know about this show, because
Exactly.
it's hands down our favorite. So
And we
Oh,
thought it was,
really?
and like we talked about earlier, we thought it was underrated. Even
Yeah.
especially in the States, it seems a little bit more underrated. And we've had people kind of commenting that to us. And we've had people commenting saying like, and a lot of our close friends too and family have been like, we got to watch the show now because of so we can watch your podcast. So we're pretty excited about that. And we have not had a single person come back to us yet saying they did not like it. So
Really? Oh my
Totally.
goodness. That's
Everyone loves it.
amazing. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think in a way, it's kind of helped us being a little bit underground and underrated, because I feel like people just find it and then they're just always like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool.
I think that's
know.
part of it for us, is when we found it, we're just going through Netflix, we were looking for something to watch, and we saw it, and we're like, well, guess we'll give it a try. And like second one in, we were like, all right, we're stuck. We're glued
We're
to
done.
it.
Exactly. It's like part of its charm, isn't it? Then you're just like, okay, the characters in this are so awesome. Of course, I want to find out more. Yeah, and I think as we've gone along, it's only gotten bigger and bigger, and our battles are more epic. But again, the characters just give you everything.
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Well,
Right.
thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
You too. If you guys want to see more Eliza Butterworth, check out her Instagram, her IMDb. We'll link it all down below. And also stick with the Screen Chronicles. We hope to be doing a lot more of these. And please follow, subscribe, and we've got a lot more coming for you. But thank you for everyone who's listened, and have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you.
Can we get a Destiny is all from you, Eliza?
Yes.
Destiny is all.
That was amazing. All right.
Come on.